Salutations from space and aloha from Earth, friends. This is Gemini Brett of More Than Astrology, here with part 11 of 2019. I'm going to look ahead some of my own feels about the astrology of this year. And we've been through much so far. There's a whole playlist on YouTube where you can review many hours, kind of subject by subject. Last time, in the 10th episode, I meant to go where I'm going today, but kind of got fortunately attracted to, I think, really important philosophical questions in regards to 2001. And I spoke a bunch about 9/11. The time before, I spoke about galactic alignment. And I'd really like to kind of extend video 9 at some point. But the short story is that we are in a time that happens only once every 26,000 years when the December solstice sun is aligned to the galactic center. And I really recommend the work of John Major Jenkins, specifically galactic alignment, to totally tune into that. It's, I will say, the most important thing happening in our time. And I recently wrote an article, very short article. It's now up to see for the public at opaastrology.org, called The Turning of the Ages, looking into the age of Aquarius and when that begins, and explaining some of the astronomy that's necessary to show for us to enter this contemplation and consider what the criterion might be, but to show most importantly that this is happening in our day. So here you see December 21st, 2019, and the sun will be at the galactic cross where the Milky Way, our city, crosses the ecliptic plane, the sun's path, our neighborhood. And those happen in two places in space. One is here at the galactic center, between the arrows of the scorpion's tail and the archer's arrow, and on Ophiuchus's foot. And the other side is on the hand of the high man, as the Celts called this, or in the sacred hoop, as the Lakota called this. So I'm showing an image here, not from 2019, though the sun will be there in 2019 still. It's about a 50-year window of this alignment. Some say 36 years, and that it ended in 2016. Some give it 50 years, from 1975 to 2025. I like that one because I was born in 75, but also because I feel certainly this window is still wide open. To me, this happening June 21st, 2001, where we had a total solar eclipse in the first degree of Cancer. It was, June solstice. And because of this galactic alignment of our time, where the medicine wheel of the cardinal directions, in this case north, is aligned to the sacred hoop at the hand of the high man and the galactic cross, this means that this solstice total solar eclipse was right there in the center of the sacred hoop. There's a movie I have on YouTube. It's 3 hours and 33 minutes and 33 seconds long, called Washington Deciphered: The Star Mysteries of DC. I recorded it years ago. It really still, I would say, is my best work in a sense. And it's really tuning into this, and how, although I wasn't looking at the specific event, sadly, at the time, but how the Capitol building is like tuned into this. You can go there if you want to play. Anyway, I'm showing 2001 because in part 8, I mentioned how the eclipses of this year, 2019, 18 years after this, are the Saros series. It's the next breath of the eclipse families from 2001. And in 2020, we will have a solar eclipse right there on July 1st, I think it is that year, or maybe June. No, it's June 20th. And so it's off by a day, and this just has to do with leap days and other things. But it's right here at the first degree, last degree of Gemini, first degree of Cancer, at this gate in the sacred hoop. Though that one will be an annular solar eclipse, the moon will be further from Earth and not large enough in our view to block the entire sun disk, so we'll have the ring of fire. This, to me, June 21st, 2001, was literally the most significant astronomical and astrological happening of our lifetimes. And so in part 10 of this series, I spoke at length about 9/11 in 2001, which happened a few months later when the sun was at the bending, to the time that often it's called the moon wobbles now. And that here in 2019 and next year in 2020, with these eclipse repetitions, and this year the Saros repetition, next year the Metonic repetition, another type of eclipse string, we are called to get back into that strange happening of 2001. So I spoke about this at length last time. I showed a lot of pictures of the Twin Towers, and then YouTube, listening in, decided to post the official story of 9/11 and the Twin Towers on my YouTube link. So that just says a little something about what has happened since this time. And I will say, in that regard, opens, I hope, some more significance, and it amplifies this question: how are we going to respond to this? The world has changed so much. How can we course correct? All right. So here's an image of June solstice 2019. We can't see this in a chart until we learn to. But the sun there, the first degree of Cancer, is on the hand of the Hymen on Orion's club. That's not true in all years, right? Okay, this is a once in 26,000 year alignment when the direction north is here at the sacred hoop, and the direction south, and that's 0 Cancer, is right in the dark rift of the Milky Way, near galactic center. All right. So we'll bring it back here, kind of halfway through 2019 when we look at this June solstice chart, right? And at the top of the chart, I was really interested to see this, right? So just check out Jupiter in Sagittarius, Saturn in Capricorn, something certainly we're going to speak more about in this session today. But that like South Node, Saturn, Pluto huddling, something we're definitely going to speak about today. But I want to compare that to this chart, okay? What is this chart? This is 2020. And you've heard, if you've watched the previous sessions, that my principal mantra for this year is be here now. Don't future trip so far into 2020. So much of that is happening in astrology, right? So let's rewind to 2019 at least. And yet we are preparing for significant astrological gatherings in 2020. Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto will all gather together in Capricorn, you see. October 8th is one of the dates I've picked when they're very close to one another. Jupiter and Saturn, about 3 degrees from Pluto on either side. They don't exactly align in Capricorn. It's a very important thing to say about 2020, because you'll hear that. Saturn will conjoin Pluto early in 2020. Jupiter will conjoin Pluto late in 2020. But Jupiter and Saturn conjoin in the first degree of Aquarius on December 21st, 2020. Okay. I'm going too far in the future there, but I'm just really interested in this kind of switcheroo where Jupiter and the South Node change places between these two charts of June 21st, 2019. October 8th I chose, again, just because Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are very closely gathered at that time in Capricorn. But we want to be here now. We really want to consider this. I mean, look at June 21st, 2020. Let me take that circle away, and I'll just use my mouse to show you that at the time, Jupiter is like partile, that means the same degree, square to Neptune. Is partile, sextile, Saturn. All right, very close to the nodes, right? I mean, we can see a lot of the significant alignments or transits of this year of 2019 in that June solstice chart. So the Be Here Now teachings, let's talk about some of the things that we will be playing with to dream into of this language I'll prefer, but we could also say prepare for or respond to in preparation for the 2020 alignments that you'll hear everybody speaking about. All right. So one thing has to do with the dragon's tail. And interestingly, we put that marking K2, we derive that marking of K2, the moon's south node, from the hood of the king cobra. If you watch a snake move, you can see south node, south node, north node. And this is because, or why we utilize these symbols and so much serpent and dragon symbolism with moon and sun, is because this is the path of the sun, the ecliptic. Every month, the moon snakes above and below that path. North node, south node, at least from the northern hemisphere's point of view. So we really want to look at K2 this year, the south node of the moon, because there's a lot of significant alignments. We're looking at the very beginning of this year of 2019, calendar year 2019 anyway. We had this partial solar eclipse in Capricorn. I'm recording today on January 23rd, 2019, just about to hop on a plane. So up early to wrap with you. I just saw this beautiful moon in the belly of the lion over here and woke up to walk and see the Venus-Jupiter conjunction that's happening right now as I'm recording this. But we just had a few days ago this total lunar eclipse in the first degree of Leo, which was the full moon in response to this Capricorn partial solar eclipse January 5th, and we see this huge triangle here of green because I'm showing, of course, how strong of a stellium, right, a planet party in the sign of Capricorn, this event embraced. And you can see here how close the moon's south node is to Pluto, okay, 6 degrees. And the deal is that the lunar nodes travel retrograde. I did a whole episode about the eclipses of 2018 and focused a bunch on this particular chart, but really spoke about the astronomy of eclipses and why the nodes move retrograde. I probably didn't say this then, but I will say it now for some reason, that I have, in my own cosmological study of the nodal retrogradation, have learned that the nodes transit the zodiac backwards in 18.618 years. That's a golden number, by the way. Because spirit is trying to convince soul to come back home. Spirit really is trying to convince soul and matter, that's moon and earth, and that's what the nodes are about, to remember that we are all the one. All right, so I'll leave that there because I know that's trippy. But you can see on YouTube as well a shadow play playlist that I have up, and one of them is Eclipse Cosmology. And if that tickled you in any way, go there because you'll see, a little bit of the roots of why I would suggest that is the truth. All right. So nodes move retrograde. And the South Node will be in the sign of Capricorn for the entire year of 2019, the entire calendar year of 2019. And in Capricorn, she will pass Pluto and then eventually Saturn as well. Here's the K2 conjoined Pluto. So I'm using that Yoidish or Vedic name for the moon's South Node, the dragon's tail, K2. So what is the dragon's tail, first of all, right? In the northern hemisphere, it is where the moon dives from the heavens back down to the earth, crossing the path of the sun. And we need some cosmology. For me, sun is spirit, the one thing, our local representative of this. And moon is soul, the reflection of the one thing. So we can, moon reflects the one light into this individual experience of spirit that is you here in matter, earth, right? And every month the moon rises to the heavens. I'll use the words of Hermes Trismegistus and his emerald tablets, her emerald tablets. It ascends to the heavens, and again it descends to the earth, achieving the force of things superior and inferior. We can apply this astronomically to the moon, who is snaking about the sun's path every month. We could apply this to any planet who snake about the sun's path during the course of their own orbit. For the moon, transits the zodiac in 27.3 days. Well, Pluto has nodes too. And Pluto transits the zodiac in about 250 plus years. Saturn in about 29.5 years. Saturn has nodes too. Jupiter in about 11.86 years. Jupiter has nodes too. And the south nodes of Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto are all in the sign of Capricorn, where they will be gathering. The moon south node is in Capricorn now. It's an amazing thing. All right. So there's this descending energy of the south node, but here's the trick. If you flip the Earth and you're looking from the southern hemisphere, the south node is actually where the moon goes up towards the heavens. So that really confused me when I sorted that out just for my own study with the sky. And I felt really that we should at least be working with these nodes differently in the two hemispheres until I had what I felt was like my most important experience or discovery about astrology really was, and I might have a slide for this later. Let's see. No, not really. Maybe not. So I'll just say this. Let's use this pretty picture while we do though. Earth is moving through space, not only about the sun, but with our sun, who is moving very quickly and bringing the entire solar system with him. And the movement of our solar system in general is towards what we consider to be north on Earth. We are moving towards the star of Vega. And we know this because just like the road opens as you're driving forward, the stars around Vega are very slowly opening, whereas the stars around Sirius, which is directly opposite Vega, are very slowly coming together. So we are literally moving like away from Sirius and towards Vega. Now, Vega never sets on Earth at Earth's North Pole, where Sirius never rises. The opposite is true at Earth's South Pole. In other words, we are literally moving towards the north. And Vega is our North Star on the other half of the great precessional year, about 13,000 years ago and 13,000 years from now, when that galactic alignment we were speaking about is shifted, where the December solstice is at the hand of the high man, which at that point is very low, and the June solstice is at galactic center. Anyway, we are moving north, and when we experience a planet crossing its north node, it is moving from our point of view north of the sun's path, and at the south pole south of the sun's path. Okay, so ways that I've worked locally with nodes and with latitude, this is called. If this is the sun's path, the planet can be north of the sun's path or south of the sun's path. And from the northern hemisphere, north is above and south is below. So I've worked with it that way. I've worked with, okay, this is going up to the heavens and this is coming down to the earth. And those are very different perspectives. One is kind of up and out and one is down and in, right? So we have that kind of chalice and the blade energy that the elements speak about too. Evolution and involution, both necessary and are meant to be balanced. Yeah, that's the heart chakra. But that doesn't work in the southern hemisphere. And I'm sure this is when the language of ascending node and descending node was changed to north node and south node. Because in the southern hemisphere, the south node ascends and the north node descends. But what is true for the entire Earth is that north is the future and south is the past. I'm not trying to apply that in any way like socio-political way to the hemispheres and its peoples. I'm just saying that Earth is moving towards the north, and so north is literally future, right? We can have Pluto in the same degree in 250 years or whatever, but we can never step in the same river twice. We're not even in the same place of space when Pluto, from Earth's point of view, will return to these degrees. It is likely that this motion of our solar system through space is a significant contributing factor to precession of the equinoxes. I want to leave that there. For some of you, that will sound like, for some of you, it'll be like, oh yeah, that's something to consider. All right. So north future, south, past. I could have just told you that, but I think you know about me and why these things are so long if I get to do them at my own pace. Is that I like to ask why. And in asking why and in sitting at length with the sky, I tend to receive answers that I feel actually support the delineation I was taught or not taught. New things come in, very new things come in. But really importantly, I want to know why South Node is past and North Node is future. And I mean, the interesting thing is, well, I think I'll just leave it there. Well, no, I will say this, that, that whole North Node is the future and South Node is the past. It's pretty new to astrological delineation. But like back in the day, it was said that North Node is like where things come in and South Node is where things go out. And what I understand from a book by, who is it, Lawton, who wrote that great sacred geometry text. He danced with the original people of Australia for a long time and shares this thing that the elders there speak about, which is that the energy is kind of coming into the north of the earth and then passing through, like the southern hemisphere is kind of like this ancestral space for this reason of this kind of earth is moving north. I mean, they didn't describe it that way. They just described this energy. What do you think about that? Like if you're moving, like where is your wake? I was thinking about a boat on the water or something. Like this is happening. And so north nodes are where we experience in Earth matter, like how we see planets moving towards the future, and south nodes of planets are where we see them moving back towards where we've come from. So south nodes really speak about past, and north nodes about future. South nodes about ancestry, and north nodes about, our descendants. I don't mean the astrological cusp of the seventh house. I mean your children, the future, our children's children's children, the children of the earth, right? Or maybe our future lives, where the South Node would speak about our past lives, if you want to use that model. All right. So K2 can join Pluto April 4th, 2019, 23 degrees Capricorn. K2 can join Saturn April 30th, 2019 at 20.5 degrees Capricorn. So in the same month's time, only separated by 26 days. Interestingly, the moon cycles the zodiac in 27 days, right? So look here, we have moon at 8 degrees Aries, and it's the day, look at the Aries new moon, right? We'll see here, moon in the last degree of Pisces. And I could say in these 2 days, depending on where you are on Earth, like Hawaii would maybe work, moon will be right at the Pisces Aries cusp for the whole world, which is the place of the beginning of the end of the beginning of the end, the end of the beginning of the end of the beginning again, right? Why? Because 0 Aries is due east of the Earth. And so east is the place of the rise of new beginnings, okay? I mean, in so many ways, that's where we begin the astrological year. So moon is exciting this point. And you can see here when K2 conjoins Pluto, moon with Chiron, and then with Sun, and then when K2 conjoins Saturn later that same month, moon with Neptune, and then crossing that great line. It's the first time I've noticed that. It's very powerfully significant as far as I'm concerned. The moon of these times will be tuning us into which age are we in? Is this the age of Aquarius? Are we coming from the age of Pisces, etc.? While this nodal happening up here, and especially if we look at kind of the midpoints of the Jupiter and Saturn situation, we're very close to this, the Ouroboros, the mouth of the cosmic or rainbow serpent, the Milky Way, where it bites its own tail there, at galactic center, which is now, because of the sun on the cross, galactic alignment due south of the center of Earth. All right. So K2 with Pluto and K2 with Saturn, hence this slide. We're speaking about deep past themes We're speaking about ancestry, you know. And as I've been saying many times throughout these long shares, you know, the necessity of an archaic revival, to use Terence McKenna's beautiful term, you know, to come back into how does this earth work? What are the true traditions that keep her alive? This is Capricorn stuff, okay? And I'm very blessed to have begun my astrological quest under the guidance of Daniel Gemario and Kaylin Castell at the Shamanic Astrology Mystery School. And Daniel conveys the Capricorn essence not as government and police, but rather in her truth, earth, chalice, as the council of grandmothers and those who preserve the true traditions of earth for the sake of the 7 future generations. Oh, you know, and that this is what has been missing. That when the Articles of Confederation, for example, and only for an example of the United States of America, were based upon Iroquois wisdom, and there's these powerful warriors and chiefs and medicine men or whatever, they forgot the top of the hierarchy, which was the Council of Grandmothers. No important decision is passed without the grandmothers there to say, go ahead, or absolutely not, right? And this was removed. You know, I like to say these cats signed some Declaration of Independence and they put wigs on. Well, that doesn't mean that the feminine was in the house, y'all. And one of the ways that we are going to have to retrieve the truth of the Capricorn mysteries so that the madness of our day and age, including, and it's a small symbol, but a huge symbol, YouTube censoring my video, or at least adding their own piece about the accepted 9/11 story just because I'm speaking about, hey, we should take a look at this thing, and grand jury supposedly will this year, and the eclipse return of 2001. I mean, we are missing in this big brother is watching you age, you know, great mother is loving you. We have to remember that that is always the truth. And if we just embrace Earth as she always embraces us, we will retrieve the true wisdom of the ages. You know, this library is in every cell of your DNA and mine. And for some reason, the squirrels are able to hear it better than us right now. It seems this is a time for archaic revival. This is a time for remembering the voice of the Earth. And it is changing. But South Node with all these planets, in a sense, it's like bring out your dead. And let me say this, that doesn't have to be some terrible thing. This doesn't have to be the skeletons in the closets. Now, you know, personally, I'm like an American mutt, right? Swedish, English, German. And don't really have a deep connection to my own ancestral roots. I mean, the people that I come from, in shamanic traditions anyway, were genocided so long ago, it's hard to connect to that thread. But I do, and I at least share that intent. And this is in a year when those types of connections first to our grandmothers and grandfathers, and then up the lines, but just also in the own blood of our soul. And so in that level, Capricorn Earth, I'm talking about literally actually like physical, you know, mitochondrial and DNA and blood lineage, right? So like your literal ancestors, but now also the ancestry of your soul. And when I say bring out your dead, there's some skeletons in that closet, you know? I mean, a lot of us in this nation who are now awakening, or we come from people who most likely owned slaves and certainly contributed to the fucking genocide, pardon me, of the original peoples of this land. And that's very true for most Americans, you know, but that's also true for most white people all over the world. And not only for white people. There's, you know, deep history of very strange things. And we don't have to look too far back, like the last second, to see that the genocide continues. And that the terrible destructions around the earth and the greed and, you know, all this shit, it's going down, right? And, you know, it's a time for us to ask, how am I contributing and how can I change that? How am I contributing to creating a new life? And really deepening into our past. But not only that, to start asking some of these questions. And let's say Jupiter and Sagittarius really matters this year. Says, what is the truth of that? Why does that matter? Why did it happen on a spiritual level? Was this necessary? Is there something here that really matters? You know, I'm kind of called. I want to look on my phone and I'm going to read this beautiful statement from the one they call Crazy Horse, who was so sane, you know, shortly before his own terrible death. So let me just look at Crazy Horse quotes. And we shall see probably pretty early on this amazing thing that Crazy Horse said in this time of just absolute pain for his peoples and, you know, anyway. Upon suffering beyond suffering. I just lost that, sorry. Let me get back here. Upon suffering beyond suffering, the red nation shall rise again, and it shall be a blessing for a sick world, a world filled with broken promises, selfishness, and separations, a world longing for light again. So, sorry, we need to finish that quote. I don't want to paraphrase it. So, hold on. Crazy Horse, suffering upon suffering. This is something like I should have in my heart to the point where I could just speak it, because it's a really good reminder and inspiration. And it challenges us, I think, I hope, but also should inspire us. Upon suffering beyond suffering, the red nation shall rise again, and it shall be a blessing for a sick world, a world filled with broken promises, selfishness, and separations, a world longing for light again. I see a time of 7 generations when all the colors of mankind will gather under the sacred tree of life, and the whole earth will become one circle again. In that day, there will be those among the Lakota who will carry knowledge and understanding of unity among all living things, and the young white ones will come to those of my people and ask for this wisdom. I salute the light within your eyes where the whole universe dwells. For when you are at that center within you, and I am in that place within me, we shall be one. Realizing that this might be a better image to show. In that day, let me say this again. I salute the light within your eyes where the whole universe dwells. For when you are at that center within you and I am in that place within me, we shall be as one, he says to people who are about to murder him, having taken his land, their land. That was not their land, right? Because these were people who know you cannot own land. And this is the wisdom. This is the archaic revival. This is reconnection, not only to the ancestry and the people and the wise elders, the original people of whatever land where you are, right? And, you know, I'm sorry to be speaking so much about race. I know that's uncomfortable for people and maybe puts me in a box or whatever. I'm not sorry, whatever, but, you know, white people, we have original people too. And it's been so severed so long ago. It's so difficult to reconnect to. It's so much of the pain that's being like emanated. Now notice that Crazy Horse talks about 7 generations. That's now. That's right now. It's this time of this galactic alignment. It's this time of this great Capricorn gathering and these great eclipses. I'm hearing some sounds in this particular room of the youth, which might mean the transmission ends today. And that'll be okay if so. Let's see. So let me wrap up. You know, I always, when I allow myself to speak at pace, you know, I like to say the pace of Earth grace, and really allow myself to be grounded and open the channel and see what wants to come through when I look at this image today. Right? No plan for a crazy horse quote, but I think the one that matters most at this time, when we look at this South Node conjunction with Saturn and Pluto, it is literally tap into the ancestry of our bloodlines, of the land, the spirits of the land, the voice of the earth, of our soul lineage, for the sake of the 7 future generations, for the sake of the future lifetimes. And there's serious purging to do and cleaning up, but there's serious reconnecting to do to the beauty and the guidance of our ancestors, for even in their folly, some of them, yeah? This was part of the great story, history, herstory, high story. Even in the lows, in the depths of its pain, there's something important in it. These things do happen for reasons, at least says Jupiter in Sagittarius, and perhaps Saturn in Capricorn too. And I think most importantly, we can realign what we believe Capricorn and Saturn to be, and bring back an archaic knowledge of this council of grandmothers, of that wisdom of our mitochondrial line, and bringing ourselves back to Earth. And as I mentioned before, it's not just Moon South Node in the sign of Capricorn for this year of 2019. For long periods of time, for all of our ancestors' times, and into the future as well, the South Nodes of Saturn and Pluto and Jupiter all reside in the sign of Capricorn. And there's geocentric planetary nodes. Heliocentric planetary nodes is where we would look for more of a historic perspective. And most importantly, let's just say they are all in that space. Okay, so you show this. This was October 24th, 2018. And this is Pluto, and you can tell this astronomically by a planet's latitude, because latitude is the measure of the distance of a planet to the ecliptic. The ecliptic is the plane of Earth about Sun, or Sun about Earth from our point of view. And for the most part, the planets dance there. The moon varies by about 5 degrees north and south every month. Venus can get 8 degrees away. Pluto gets like 17 degrees plus. Right? So Pluto is very far from the plane. You can see the orbit of Pluto here. And I cast this for October 24th, 2018. And you can see now Pluto here is at the plane of the solar system, which is relatively flat. Every planet has its own wave, and Pluto's is very extreme. This is one of the reasons why the astronomers in 2005, when Eris was discovered, demoted Pluto to the classification they gave to her, which is dwarf planet, right? Because Pluto acts very differently than the other planets, and this is one of the very significant reasons why. It's called eccentricity. So here's October 24, 2018, when Pluto crossed her south node in the sign of Capricorn. And half of a Pluto cycle away, it's Pluto in Cancer, to come back up. It's about 125 years from now, across the plane moving north. Okay, so this is south node. So Pluto getting back now, it's been diving down since the 80s. Let me show this. This is October 24, 75. This is my birthday, and Pluto is way up there, way north of the plane. And here we see February 4th, 1980, and what I'm showing here is Pluto was square to the heliocentric nodes. Okay, so Pluto in the sign of Libra in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, is when Pluto was most north of the ecliptic plane, furthest from the Earth, Sun, matter, spirit plane. And now Pluto has come down to the plane. October 24th, 1975. Yes, we're all waking up. Yeah. All right.
We're all waking up.
We're all waking up, people. You heard it from the future right there. All right, so 0 degrees latitude. All right, Saturn crosses the ecliptic on February 12th, 2020. What does that mean? That means Saturn is at Saturn's south node in 2020. Jupiter, February 25th, 2020. Look at that. Saturn on the February 12th at Saturn's south node, Jupiter on February 25th at Jupiter's south node. And Pluto, October 24th, 2018, a year and a half before this, right? And the moon every month of this year of 2019 and beyond when she crosses her south node, right? And maybe that's especially significant at times of eclipses, like on January 5th, 2019. All right. So I think we'll cruise ahead. I'm going to see, what the call is around here. But I want to speak about this. I did speak about this at length with Gary Caton recently. No, this is the right place to stop so I can participate with the future. And a great gateway into the past. Because as we hear in the Gospel of Thomas, and Thomas means twins, and this cat was named Didymus Thomas, and Didymus also means twins. So this one of the 12 disciples, in other words, signs about the light, the sun, we call Gemini. And I paraphrase, but in this text, the man wise in years will not hesitate to ask a child of 7 days for his place in life, for he who is first shall be last, and they shall be one and the same. Cryptic Jesus stuff, yes. Seems to perhaps tickle the mysteries of reincarnation. But most importantly, this says that the youth carry the wisdom because they are the closest to spirit, right? The man wise in years will not hesitate to ask a child of 7 days for his place in life. For it is that awe and that spark of light and life in a child's eye who has not yet been cultured to forget they are creator that is the greatest reminder to us of what we truly are. This is a year for us to remember the power of our vision, of our dream, of our collective creation. This is a year where we are being called to learn to speak English and also to tap into the depths of our ancestry, to learn to remember that language that does not have words, the language of earth, to hear the heartbeat of our mother in the beating of our own hearts, to hear that rhythm of our soul and the collective, and to tune into the great wisdom of these young souls who are coming to the plane now, so close to that one place where we are all connected, but have been encouraged to forget so we can do our own thing. And that's important. It's important that we have an individuated experience on Earth, because the one thing is everything and therefore nothing. It can't grow. It is everything. So through this great miracle of reflecting spirit into individuated appearance of soul and the art of forgetting that is tied to this great miracle, we ourselves can feel in these monkey suits that have hearts. And feeling opens the gateway to healing, which opens a wider window to knowing. And that is the gift of growing. We can give back to the one thing. And you just heard this. Young man, 3.5 years old, ran in here and said, "I'm awake." So it is time for us to remember, as we've said, we are the ones we are waiting for. The time is now. This is that 7-generation time when all the colors of the rainbow can come together and remember the true voice of Earth and that we are all one. And so I want to read this one more time from this crazy horse who is so incredibly sane. And this certainly applies to the first people of this nation and first people of so many lands who have been through so many genocides. But in my heart, I feel that he was speaking this to all of us, not only encouraging us to come back to the true wisdom and to the people who have retained the wisdom despite all of this disaster, but I think we're being encouraged to remember that this suffering will lead to this reconnection. Did it ever have to be severed in the first place? Who am I to say? Crazy Horse said, upon suffering beyond suffering, the red nation shall rise again, and it shall be a blessing for a sick world, a world filled with broken promises, selfishness, and separations, a world longing for light again. I see a time of 7 generations when all the colors of mankind will gather under the sacred tree of life, and the whole earth will become one circle again. In that day, there will be those among the Lakota who will carry knowledge and understanding of unity among all living things. And the young white ones will come to those of my people and ask for this wisdom. I salute the light within your eyes where the whole universe dwells. For when you are at that center within you, and I am in that place within me, we shall be as one. I said way earlier on, this is a wonderful year to connect to sacred spaces. And that you don't have to go from home, far from home. They're all over the globe. Like, I'm really blessed to be hopping on a plane today, despite the craziness here and in the destination where I'm heading, which is Mexico at this strange time. Eclipses and all this is happening, you know. And I'll have a chance to sit, hopefully, at Teotihuacan and Uxmal and Mayapan and Palenque and like tap into the, you know, sacred sites that carry keys to our own collective remembrance, you know. But I have not yet been in this nation where my soul chose to incarnate to the Black Hills in South Dakota. I have been to Chimney Rock and Mesa Verde and Chaco Canyon and, you know, I mean, Mystery Hill and Newark Earthworks and some of the great mountains of Georgia. These great places that still exist carry the wisdom of soul, the wisdom of our ancestry, because we have our own bloodlines, yeah? And we have our soul lines, and we have spirit lines of earth, nation, peoples of the land, first peoples that we can also remember. And I'll just share this, you know. We hear in that great quote by Crazy Horse that the white people will come and to receive the wisdom of the first peoples. This terrible thing of, you know, the pipeline through the Lakota land, the little land that remained after these terrible oaths were broken so long ago, and etc. That we really came to our awareness with the Standing Rock, you know, protests. And I really felt at that time like moves were being made for this collective reawakening, that things were going to shift. And, you know, we could really feel the pain if that didn't work. But didn't it? How do we respond to that? Let's not forget. And again, I'll say this, you know, as we move through these, what was 9/11 about? On a spirit level, on a soul level, why did that suffering have to happen? Why? And it's still happening. And if we choose to forget that, you know, I mentioned earlier in this flow, Fukushima reactor, why did that happen? What is that about? How do we respond to that? We are being called to dream into the healing this year, not by ignoring why there is so much pain, but by opening wider windows into that gnosis, really feeling it. and expressing, and in that depth of pain, finding the pleasure of creation and the joy and the release that will set us free. So one thing that was very inspirational for me in the time of Standing Rock was in my community in Seattle at the time when I was living there. There were some elders that came to us from First Peoples from around the land, and were really encouraging that community, mostly white people, to come be present at Standing Rock. I must admit, I did not go, but a lot of our community did, and a lot of our community was called on to build structures for the coming cold and snow. And it was amazing to see, because this idea of village building, which has become a term in, conscious festival culture, and really, a lot of it was really born at Burning Man. Say Burning Man. Because people, I think in most part, went there to have, in a way, a party, whatever. Or initially, that was not the intent of it. And I haven't been to Burning Man either, but I know a lot of people went there and then suddenly had this incredible spiritual awakening, this remembrance of the magic of manifestation and gathering and community and village building, and creation of new culture and a gathering of all tribes of the rainbow, etc., But it's a place where I think, I'll just continue to say white people who have been so severed from our own shamanic heritage and our own ancestral connection when we were first peoples long, long ago, different lands. That people were learning again, and a lot of us are having these experiences, starting to hear the voice of the plants and the animals and of the earth without the training of how to do so, but yet still tapping into, in that, in a sense, naive or new way, untrained way. Learning some of the lessons that maybe are best expressed from people who come to this without understanding or teaching. And then that can be guided for, we come back, say, what is this about? And we find our way to elders and teachers. And fortunately, that still exists, But it was pretty cool to see at this time that first the elders were saying, look, there's young people of our tribes that are going to be angry at you and don't feel you belong there. And we are doing our best as elders to remind them that we need all peoples, and that all peoples are brothers and sisters, and that this is this time for all colors of people, as Crazy Horse said, or we've heard this, all colors of the rainbow, including, though the rainbow doesn't show this one white, But I thought what was really amazing at that time is that this knowledge that people had gained, literally mostly at Burning Man and like festival culture since then, of how to pop up a village right away and how to build these geodesic bucky domes and whatever, and put, new flame cannons in them. And it's like the tech that advanced through people going out into the desert in harsh environments and having to create for themselves a home to do their thing, which maybe at first for many was like going to party, and still is for some, but for many at first, like going to celebrate spirit and community. And that has become, it seems to me, at least the initiation that people go through as they become burners and get to express their own creativity. They're also connecting to the creativity of culture and village, tribe, dare we say. And that wisdom that had developed, which really is echoes of the heartbeat and the voice of Earth, speaking perhaps in a new way to people who had the means to play with technology in a new way there, perhaps. Like there were teachings, and that was encouraged, at least into our community, by these elders who really embraced us and encouraged and inspired us to come and bring that knowledge that was developing, right, to this protest, so that we could be one of these colors of the rainbow, or colors of people, to come back and in that space also learn again the ancient ways of prayer and community and right leadership and honor, etc. So we'll have more opportunities to do this, and we should do this This look nodes, Capricorn, reconnect to the ancestry, to the culture, to the tribe, wisdom. North node, Cancer, family. So we'll see this. We'll see astrologers talk about nations and governments and police, and yeah, that's part of it. But it's the shadow part that has forgotten what it's really about, which is village, tribe, crew. And we're all in this together. And if we choose to remember that and to contribute our own gift, your personal gift, the magic that you bring that no one else has to offer, then we are serving the collective co-creation that might actually have been potential, more potential through forgetting than had we not. I don't have the right words for that, and they're difficult to say anyway. These are challenging things that I've been led to share today. And I hope they've spoken to you, and I hope you'll leave a comment, you know. I mean, maybe some of the things I've said have angered you, and you'd like to teach me a thing or two. Great, please. There's a comment section, right? Whether you're watching this on Facebook Live or on YouTube later, maybe things have agreed. Maybe things have awoken for you. Maybe there's some wisdom that you care to share. We would love to hear it. We would love to hear it. And we need to hear your voice and to receive your art, not here, in the comment section, but please do that. But please create, please share, please give your gift, please come together, right? All of us to share our individual magic and reunify and tap into the wisdom of the land of the elders and into our own, each of us, our own personal ancestral lines, into the voice, the heart of the earth, where we are and always have been, though we've forgotten this, connected. All right. When you are at that center within Earth, and I am in that place too, we shall be as one. Loving planets to you, friends. This is Gemini Brett signing off. I will see you in space.